Some inventions aren't destroyed by failure. They're buried by time. In 1993, Apple released a machine that could think, write, and remember. A device that promised to carry your entire life in your hand. Years before the internet, before Wi-Fi, before smartphones. It was called the Apple Newton, and for a moment, it looked like the future had arrived. But the world wasn't ready, and the signal faded before anyone could hear it clearly. You're watching Signal Lost, where we uncover the stories of technology that came too soon. The Newton didn't begin in the 1990s. It began in the late 1980s, when Apple was drifting through an identity crisis. Steve Jobs was gone, exiled after clashing with CEO John Sculley. Sculley wanted Apple to be a disciplined corporation, not a cult of personality. He envisioned elegant, portable devices that ordinary people could use anywhere, and Newton would be the crown jewel of that idea. At the 1992 Consumer Electronics Show, Sculley took the stage and unveiled a dream. He called it a personal digital assistant, a new kind of computer that lived in your hand, understood your writing, and helped you manage your life. It was a phrase he invented that day, and it instantly entered the tech lexicon. To make it real, Apple built a secret lab inside its Cupertino campus, the Newton Systems Group. Engineers Steve Sackerman and Larry Tesler led hundreds of developers on a quest to build a pocket-sized computer that could think like a person. They weren't scaling down the Macintosh. They were reimagining computing itself. Over the next 6 years, Apple poured in around $100 million, nearly $300 million in today's dollars, into research, custom hardware, and a new operating system called Newton OS. It was a staggering bet for a company still relying on floppy disks and beige desktops. Inside those labs, optimism bordered on obsession. They pictured a world where students scribbled notes on glass, where executives synced calendars through invisible airwaves, a world where technology felt human. By 1993, Apple was ready to show it off. The Apple Newton Message Pad. The price? About $900, more than $1,500 today. Apple projected it would sell like a Macintosh in miniature. On paper, the features were revolutionary. Digital handwriting, contact management, wireless beaming, even a primitive form of email. To Sculley, it was proof Apple could still lead the industry. But inside the Newton Group, the engineers were uneasy. Its handwriting recognition engine, Calligrapher, licensed from a third-party firm, wasn't ready. Developers begged for a delay. Sculley pushed forward. Deadlines were gospel. When he demonstrated the device live, the moment that should have crowned his legacy became its undoing. He wrote, "Let's meet at 10. On the glowing screen appeared, "Catch me at Ken." The crowd chuckled, and within days, the joke spread faster than any press release. Cartoonists pounced. The Simpsons mocked it. Doonesbury turned it into a recurring gag.
So I've come up with these academic alerts. You will receive one as soon as your grades start to slip in any subject. This way, your parents won't have to wait until report card time to punish you.
How innovative! I like it! Hey, Dolph, take a memo on your Newton. Beat up Martin. Bah!
Apple's miracle had become a meme before memes existed. In its first few months, about 50,000 units sold. A curiosity, not a revolution. Analysts who'd predicted 1 million buyers now quietly stopped counting. And behind the scenes, the Newton became something darker, a symbol of Apple's split identity. To Sculley, it was his masterpiece. To Jobs, watching from afar, it was the proof that Apple had lost its soul. By 1994, the shine was gone. The Newton was heavy, fragile, and drained its batteries faster than it saved appointments. Its 1.4-pound frame felt like a brick compared to the vision of handheld freedom Apple had promised. Still, the engineers kept improving it. Apple kept refining the design, releasing the Message Pad 120, 130, and 2000, each a new generation of Newton hardware with faster chips and brighter screens. But even as the technology improved, the handwriting still faltered, and the world had already moved on. A startup called Palm Computing released the Palm Pilot in 1996. Cheaper, smaller, simpler. It sold nearly 400,000 units in its first year. Apple's entire Newton line would move maybe 150 to 300,000 over 5 years. Inside Apple's spreadsheets, Newton was now a red ink monument. It had consumed $100 million in research and development and still hadn't turned a profit. Apple itself was hemorrhaging cash, posting an $816 million loss in 1996, its worst year on record. In desperation, Apple began licensing Newton OS to outside partners. Sharp released the Expert Pad. Motorola offered the Marco. Siemens tried a Newton-based note phone. Instead of saving Newton, the move diluted it. Each partner tweaked the design, each shipped different features, and customers no longer knew what a Newton actually was. Inside the company, the experiment was dividing the faithful. Executives saw a drain on resources. Engineers saw a masterpiece trapped in the wrong decade. Then the ghost of Apple's past walked through the door. In 1997, Steve Jobs returned. He surveyed the product lineup, dozens of half-finished devices, and began cutting with surgical precision. Newton, to him, represented everything Apple shouldn't be. Scattered, unfocused, obsessed with features instead of perfection. To many employees, his decision felt like cleansing fire. To the Newton team, it felt personal. Sculley's pet project was being erased by the man he'd once fired. Jobs famously sneered at styluses. Who wants a stylus? You lose them. He wanted intuitive touch, not pens and handwriting recognition. In February 1998, he shut Newton down. The labs went silent. Hundreds of engineers were reassigned or let go. One former developer would later describe the day as a funeral. If you're intrigued by the tech that came too soon, hit subscribe and join Signal Lost. Let's explore the forgotten inventions shaping today's world. 10 years passed. And then, on a dark stage in 2007, Steve Jobs lifted a glowing rectangle of glass before the world. It was called the iPhone. It recognized touch. It managed contacts, notes, and calendars. It connected wirelessly, synced seamlessly, and spoke in a natural voice.
Now, how are we going to communicate this? We don't want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers. We're going to touch this with our fingers.
Everything Newton had promised. Now real. This time, the world had caught up. Processors were fast enough. Networks were global. The cloud existed to store everything Newton once tried to keep on a single card. Jobs laughed about styluses, but the irony was obvious. Newton's ghost was alive inside that glass. Larry Tesler, one of Newton's original architects, later admitted, "The iPad is exactly what we were trying to build." Newton's failures became Apple's foundation. Handwriting evolved into multi-touch. Local storage became iCloud. The personal digital assistant became Siri. The company that had once lost over $100 million on Newton learned to perfect the art of waiting. And the lesson paid off. The iPhone and iPad together would earn Apple more than $1 trillion in revenue. Newton had been a financial failure, but a strategic triumph. Many interface patents and research concepts from its era would later surface as part of Apple's design lineage. The ghost that once embarrassed Apple had quietly become its guardian. The engineers who designed Newton went on to craft Mac OS, iOS, and the ecosystem that would define modern computing. If you want more stories like this, forgotten tech, buried blueprints, and inventions ahead of their time, subscribe to Signal Lost. Thanks for watching.